And this will be sent out tomorrow morning. So if you want to go back and reference anything that's discussed during the session, feel free to do so. I'm sure there's going to be some things you'll probably want to hear twice, so great opportunity to go back and do that. Also attached to that recording is going to be a brief survey. We value your opinion as students and alumni here at WGU, so we're constantly seeking out that feedback from those attending sessions. So if you could take the time, fill that out. Like I said, should take you no more than 2 minutes. The chat is open, so if you do have questions, feel free to post those into the chat. Once we go through set questions that we've kind of already have in place, we'll open it up for those in attendance to ask any questions that you might have. You can post those into the chat and I'll read them off, or if you're feeling brave and want to raise your hand and come off mute, we will welcome that as well. So certainly want to give you that opportunity. And from here, what I will do is, Asia, I want to give you the floor. If you want to introduce yourself, what degree did you earn from WGU? And then what is your current job title and organization that you're working for?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Asia Michael. I earned the endorsement in educational leadership from WGU. I was a classroom teacher at the time, looking to move into administration, and so I took that route. Currently, I'm a superintendent of schools in Freehold Public School District. It's a K-8 district in Monmouth County, New Jersey.
And what, prior to your current role, can you kind of give us a background on, your career path? Where has that really led you? Where'd you start, and how did you navigate to your current position?
Sure. So I always wanted to be a teacher as far back as I could remember, but I was pegged as the doctor in the family. So my mother was like, you're going to be the doctor. Right. So I went pre-med. So I was a biology major, which was great. I love biology, still love to get into science classes, and thought when I went into education, I would actually be a science teacher, high school science teacher, but things had other plans. Right after college, I was asked to raise my sister's 5 children. So in raising them, I needed a job to take care of them. So I actually went into the mortgage industry and realized, I don't like that. So I said, let me get back into education. So I wound up going the alternate route. And so while I was working in the mortgage industry, taking care of 5 children by myself as a 22-year-old, and doing the alternate route, I got my certification for a classroom teacher, elementary ed. And then my first job was in Trenton, New Jersey at a charter school. And I taught there for 3 years before moving to Burlington Township, New Jersey, as a 4th and then 5th grade teacher for 10 years. And so that was my career before moving into administration.
Oh my goodness. I can only imagine what that was like as a 22-year-old with 5 children. As somebody that has 2 children, and I feel like I can't even keep my head above water. I have no idea how you did that, so kudos to you.
It was hard. It was challenging for sure.
What inspired you to continue to pursue that career path? I know you had mentioned that, it's something that you always really wanted to do, but was there something that, really inspired you to continue to work towards that career path?
Yeah, so I would have to say I never in a million years saw myself as a superintendent. It was just not something I aspired to. In fact, I couldn't even point out a superintendent of schools in my districts that I worked in. Like it just was somebody that you didn't see. It was the person in the ivory tower. So that was not where I aspired to be. I just thought I would be a teacher, a classroom teacher my whole career. I retired as a classroom teacher. But what I found is that the leaders around me were constantly making decisions for kids without their best interest in mind. As a classroom teacher, I had very high expectations for my students. My thought was always to prepare them beyond. I was in a K-5 district at the time, prepare them beyond 5th grade, to prepare them for middle school and beyond. And that wasn't the mindset. As a matter of fact, principal actually told me to lower my expectations because I was making my colleagues look bad. And I said, okay, well, I don't think that's what education is about. And so that propelled me to think about, okay, could I actually be a leader of a district and not just a classroom teacher? Would I give more to the students as a leader versus being a classroom teacher? And it wasn't till I actually start hearing back from parents after the students left me and went on to middle school that they were saying, "Oh my God, my child went to high school, and they were very prepared because of you, because of what you instilled in them in fourth and fifth grade." So that kind of said, "Okay, yeah, I can do this," and it kept me on that trajectory to move into administration. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say, and like superintendent is not easy. I'm not gonna say, this is the dream job. Like there's nothing wrong. It's rainbows and unicorns every day. No. Sometimes I question myself, and it wasn't until like I was actually sitting at a workshop where I was supposed to be taking the day off, like, right? And I was like really questioning, do I want to continue being a superintendent? Because you really have some hard days. You have to make tough decisions. People come at you from all angles. It's sort of lonely at the top a lot of times. And I was literally sitting there pondering at this training session, and I got a text message from a student that I had tutored 12 years ago. And this was actually last year. 12 years ago, I tutored this student, and he wanted to tell me that he graduated college and he could not have done it if it wasn't for me. And every time he tried to give up, he heard my voice in his head saying, okay, so that didn't work for you. So what? What are you going to do now? What did you learn? Okay, get up, move on. Let's try it again. And he said, because I said that all the time to my students, he kept hearing my voice, and that made him graduate. So I said, okay, yeah, I am good for this. I'm going to continue.
And that seems to be a theme in a lot of these sessions is like, what is your why? So I can only imagine something like that 12 years later, like
Yeah,
that is just, I mean, I can only imagine what that felt like receiving that, but I'm assuming that that is your why is continuing and doing things like that you've been doing. Is that your why? Seeing something
absolutely.
like that?
Absolutely, because you never know. We all know education is a thankless job, right? Because it's your fault if the kids do bad. It's never you when they do good, but it depends on who you talk to, right? But you make these decisions whether you're in the classroom, whether you're support staff, whether you're a superintendent all the way at the top, and everyone is not going to like the decisions you make. But when you realize that the reason you do it is ultimately for the kids, and you have to really dial back and say, okay, this is not about me, it's not about the parents, it's for the kids. Then that becomes your why, and that pushes me forward every day.
I want to focus a little bit on WGU.
Mhm.
Why did you choose WGU? Was there a reason? Usually, I mean, just talking with people, there's usually something specific on how they ended up coming across WGU and why they ended up pursuing their degree from our university.
Oh, for sure. So I came across WGU because I was looking to continue my education. And I was by this time my sister she had her kids back, so that was good. But I said by that time I had two children of my own. They were young. I was a full-time mom, of course, a wife, had a full-time job, but I know I wanted to continue my career. And then looking at WGU, it was the only university that at the time that was completely online, that was very attractive to me. And it allowed me to work at my own pace. If I wanted to move ahead, I could. If I wanted to slow it down, I could. And not for nothing, it was within that semester was all the same price. So that was beautiful. So it was economical. It was obviously affordable. And it was for me what I needed at the time. And it seemed I got a lot of support as I went into and started my semesters. I had a ton of support. So even if I wanted to give up, I couldn't because I always had someone, contacting me. Hey, how you doing? How's everything going? And it was just great to feel like, even though I wasn't in a brick and mortar situation, I felt more connected than I did when I went to my undergrad because I had those people who were behind me and they were my cheerleaders.
And kind of speaking to that, mentorship. So like I think a lot of people can lean on that. Can you kind of speak on the mentorship that maybe you've received over the course of your career. I know everybody at WGU is assigned a program mentor, which is a huge aspect of how we do things here at WGU. But can you just speak to, maybe some mentors that you've had along the way in your career? How have they impacted you? Was that in somebody that you sought out, or was it just like a natural thing where they took you under their wing type of situation?
So my very first mentor, so moving from the classroom into administration, was actually, so I lived in the town that I taught in. So my son's principal actually knew I wanted to pursue administration, and she took me under her wings. Here's what you say in an interview. Here's what you don't say in an interview. This is what you read up on. This is how you do it, because it was different for me. It was 13 years since I even had an interview. So she kind of took me under her wings. Once I became an administrator, it's very different, and there are different experiences for different people. I will say that the experiences of a Black woman moving into upper administration and central office are very different than other people's experiences. And there are different challenges that we have to face. So it's hard to get someone who understands what a minority female has to deal with in a predominantly male role. That's typically a male role, a white male role. So trying to get them to understand, okay, I could say that, but it's going to be looked at very differently if I say that, if it comes out of my mouth. So it was very hard to find a mentor who understood where I was coming from, understood the challenges. And what do you mean they questioned you? They never questioned me. Well, yes, they questioned me, even though I gave them facts after facts after facts. So now I think I'm with a lot of different organizations. It would take me all day to list them all. But I found a lot of seasoned superintendents who are minority, who understand what's going on, and women who just understand the realness of our job, and how we are looked at versus our male counterparts. So now I don't have to seek out people. We gravitate towards each other because sometimes it's just like, oh my God, the state of the world today, and we have a common cause and common, we're united by trying to make students' lives better.
And I guess looking at you currently, are you providing mentorship for maybe young educators that are thinking of moving into those types of roles? Can you speak on that?
Absolutely. So within one of my networks, one of the networks I'm involved in is Black Female Superintendents, a national organization. And we always invite anyone who's aspiring to be a superintendent or is a superintendent. And the ones I'm considered now a baby soup because I've only been a superintendent for 4 years. I thought I would have graduated this year, but no, I'm still a baby soup. But we look to each other for answers. And because it's a national organization, so in New Jersey, perfect example is the sex ed curriculum. We had to battle that first in New Jersey before it matriculated into other communities and states. So we were able to look to each other. So although I'm a baby soup, I'm able to lend my voice and help others within our network with some things that they have. So it feels good to be able to help people for sure.
As far as your degree from WGU, how have you utilized or leveraged that degree since earning it in your career?
So it definitely, if I wouldn't have gotten my degree from WGU, I never would have gone into administration. It was either WGU or the other online courses that were not even comparable to WGU, or a brick and mortar, which I could not do because I had a family and a full-time job. So as soon as I got my degree, maybe shortly after a year or two, when I was ready, I was able to get a job as an administrator. It was also because of the resources that I tapped into that prepared me for that job as well. So the learning resources, the alumni resources, just being able to connect with alumni who are in the same boat was really helpful. My mentor, I actually was able to reach out to my mentor after I graduated and get some advice and some help as to how I should move forward. Because it's a scary time when you're navigating from the classroom to administration, and just being able to reach back and ask people was very helpful.
And how did you go about doing that? Was it via LinkedIn? Was it email? Was it more in-person engagements? Maybe an organization that you belong to, a meeting. How did you navigate that?
So it was definitely through email. I knew of colleagues I was in class with and just saying, hey, I'm looking for this. And by that network, having the network of people that I went through the process with, I was able to take advantage of things and they were able to point me in the right direction. LinkedIn wasn't out back then, but definitely making the connections with people that I went to class with.
Okay. As far as your current position,
Mhm.
what do you love most about the job?
I would say the kids, just being able to bring in new things for students. I work in a predominantly Hispanic community. We have 82% free or reduced lunch, so they're economically disadvantaged. And 72% of my parents only speak Spanish. So being able to work with the students to have opportunities for them where they don't envision going to college. It's just not something that they dream of. And even though we're not a high school, we don't have a high school within our district, we prepare them that, listen, this is a possibility. Just this week, I partnered with the Y for a free program, and it's called the Achievers Program, where they're going to work with 30 of our students, 20 of our students, to let them know that high school is a possibility. I love being able to connect with the community to provide opportunities like that for our students because they don't see that things are possible, especially now on the state of the world. We've had a couple of ICE raids in our town, and they just think it's doomsday, and we have to be able to tell them that no, you still have the possibility of doing different things, and we'll provide those opportunities for you. But that's what keeps me going, and that's what I love most, being able to bring those opportunities back to our students.
Amazing. And then as far as like staying engaged, is there, are you doing a lot of community work within the school district to stay engaged and keep people informed?
Oh, absolutely. I leverage my relationship with the community. Last week, I was in a meeting with the mayor, one of the senators of New Jersey, town council, just to say, like, hey, this is what I need from my students. We're going to be losing some state funds. How can you help us? So I leverage my relationships to be able to provide things for my students. And it helps that you have a community who puts you in the right room, because if I didn't have a community who was willing to do a lot for the kids, I wouldn't be in those spaces. So being able to stay engaged in that part, and I always said when I was a classroom teacher, I will never be political, but I find myself in those spaces because it's so necessary now to just be able to get things that our kids need.
Especially at this day and age too.
Yes.
Um, Corey had a question in the chat.
Sure.
How do you overcome challenges when some of your administration only speaks English and they need to provide resources for Spanish-speaking families?
So we're a unique district where we have I think our a list of we have 30 translators in our district, who go to every parent evening event, who go to parent teacher conferences, who would jump on a phone call. So we have our translators at the ready. We also have co-teaching bilingual classrooms, up K to 5. So those teachers are also always available to speak to our parents. We put out everything in multiple languages so that our parents can get access to it. The one thing I will say that we run into problems with is sometimes just the interpretation of the information. We have to remember to sometimes our parents, they can't read the Spanish or the English, and we have to bring the information down a little bit at a lower grade level. But we still put out the information for them to see. So sometimes it is a challenge, but we are well equipped to confront it head on.
What what does a typical day look like for you? I can only imagine it varies. But I don't know. Can you paint us a picture as far as what a typical day might look like?
Sure. So I wake up very early. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, I was supposed to get up at 4 to work out, but that hasn't worked out for several months. I'm also on a doctoral program, so I've been working on that. So I spend my weekends with my doctoral program. So I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and it's emails. So I'm working on emails that I receive. I usually cut my email off during the day about 2 o'clock. So I'm answering emails from that I got from 2 o'clock all the way to the end of the day. I answer those in the morning, but I set my timer so they're not released until 7 a.m. I will not have anybody getting an email from me at 4 a.m. That's ridiculous. So 7 a.m. My commute is about 45 minutes. So I love thrillers and mysteries and murder mysteries. So my Audible is on. My Audible book is on in my car all the way here. Don't call me on my way to work. I'm listening to Stephen King or somebody. That's just my downtime. I get to work, and my secretary is waiting with everything that I have to do today. Whatever calls I have, she lets me know what meetings I have. My calendar is pretty full. Most mornings I'm meeting with community members, and that can be anywhere from organization leaders to politicians. My afternoons I spend 2 hours in the classrooms, just getting in and talking to kids, talking to teachers, letting them know that I'm here. I'm here for them. And I spend the end of my afternoons just rounding up the day, finishing up any paperwork, because nowadays administration is a lot of paperwork. And then a lot of evenings, I have community events. Tonight, I'm meeting with the Education Foundation. We have a monthly meeting, and I devote my week. So they have me Monday through Thursday. I say, whatever you want to do in town, do it Monday through Thursday. Don't call me on the weekends. Friday is mine. Only call me on weekends if it's an event that I have to go to. And most of the time, it'd be like a parade or something like that. But it's fun. It's fun. I love it. I wouldn't change it, and I'm glad I'm here. And I will say, I was the superintendent for 2 years in a different district that was very different. They didn't believe in everything for all kids. They didn't believe in equity. I wasn't allowed to say the word diverse in that community. And it's a blessing to be here where the board and all the teachers understand what it means for all kids to succeed.
Just hearing you talk about all those different things as far as like what your typical day looks like, work-life balance, like how do you prioritize that and kind of keep your sanity in all of that?
That's a good question. I am bad at that, I will admit. I'm getting better. So, although I get up at 4, I don't go to bed until 12. And that's because from 7:30 to 11, my husband has my attention. My children are grown now, so I talk to my daughter on the way home, so I get that out of the way. So because it's just a lot of yes, So I get that out of the way on my way home. Like every other day we talk. Saturdays are from my parents. I spend time with my parents on Saturdays. My son, he still lives with me. So, he'll come in and bother me every now and then for money. Hey, mom, that type of thing. But from 7 to 11, my husband has my attention. And twice a month, we have date night. So that's my balance for now. Uh, like I said, I'm getting better at it because I was no good. I was always taking work home. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because work-life balance is extremely important, because you can burn out. This job is thankless most times, and it's very easy to burn out. So you do have to have a balance, and I'm getting better. I will say that. But when you love it, it's hard to let it go.
Right. I can only imagine that. I mean, you just hearing how your day is set up, I'm like, oh, I get a little anxiety just hearing about it. So kudos to you for being able to keep up that pace. I guess easy to understand with understanding what your why is too. Um, there was a question in the chat from Danielle. Do you ever miss teaching?
Yes. I absolutely do. I always put out a filler. Hey, if anybody wants me to come in and help them with a lesson, I would love to. I don't get any takers. There's something about the superintendent coming in and helping you that I think they're like, yeah, no thanks. But like I was in classrooms today. I was in a math class today. I was in an algebra class today. And I got to sit next to kids and say, hey, I can help you. I actually know how to do that problem. But I do miss teaching. I do. But I get to, the good thing about being a superintendent is you get to see all great teaching all the time, at least in my district. I can go in any classroom and there are great things going on. And I just get to marvel at the great staff that we have and the students who are actively engaged and not passively engaged. So, yeah.
Kristen had a question. What do you think helped you make the transition from teacher to administrator? Is there anything you recommend for professional development if someone is considering it?
So I would say yes. So one thing that my mentor did do, she put me into a educational leadership program. It was an eye opener because a lot of times you see leaders who are not as effective. You say, "Oh, I can do that job." Yeah, it's not that easy. So I would definitely recommend an educational leadership program. Most counties have them, most states have them, just to get you prepared for that leap, because it is a big leap.
And the next question that I had, looking towards the future, um, is there anything that excites you for you personally in your career? It might be, a year from now, 5 years, 10 years. What is something that really excites you moving forward?
So I just got accepted to a national certification program for superintendent. So that's exciting. So I actually start that next month. So I'm looking, that's the immediate future. I'm looking forward to that just to be able to learn with my national colleagues, and then tackle like challenges that are pressing today, in a bigger form with a new mentor with fresh eyes. I'm looking forward to that. Um, as far as my students and the future of education, what excites me is AI. Like it's like huge. There's so many different avenues. There's so many things that our kids can be and do, and it's not about you have to learn this to be able to. You have to recite all of this to be able to be good at your job. It's about this thing can really transform the future, and there's so many different avenues that our kids can get lost in and have so many different possibilities. And I'm just excited because their world is going to like open up, and even for our teachers to be able to simplify their workload, because I definitely simplify my workload with AI. To be able to simplify their workload and have time for other things is just beautiful. And I think education, the landscape is definitely changing, so that we can advance our kids a little bit more for, this is cliche, for jobs that aren't even created yet, but just the possibilities are endless. And the challenge of having to prepare them is just, it just keeps me motivated. It's truly a blessing to be in education right now.
I will share with you that is 6 for 6 of these sessions where AI has come up. So I am thrilled to hear that you incorporated that into your response. And it's crazy because we've had alums in all different industries, and it has come up every single time. So I am so happy to hear you bring that up. Um, and Kristen just asked in the chat, would love to hear how you're using AI,
Oh,
if you're open to sharing that.
I am definitely open to sharing. So, Kristen, sometimes my emails can be a little bit direct. So I like to use AI to make them, I say friend, I'll use the term in there, friendlier, just to kind of change the tone and the language a little bit. So I use it for emails for sure. I use it for parent emails as well. So if I want to get some information out to parents, but I don't want to send like paragraphs of information, I have this AI platform that will simplify it, just give the main points and really put it into bullet format to make it easier to digest. I use AI to create agendas for my team meetings. I use AI to create proposals for my board. I use AI to create an outline of a policy that I want to propose for my board. I used AI to develop a administrative retreat, just an outline of a 2-day administrative retreat. The possibilities are endless. Like if I can't think or I don't have a minute, I put it in AI, walk away, and come back. It's there. Now I have to do things to it, of course, but at least it gives me a starting point, to help me ground myself, which is important because I'm all, as you can tell, I'm all over the place with a lot of different things. So that helps to give me a foundation.
And I guess a question that I have is how do you foresee maybe some of your educators, teachers in the district utilizing AI?
So right now, so what we did in our district, which is kind of different from a lot of districts I'm finding, we wanted to be strategic how we rolled out AI. So over the summer, we did training with our administrative team, got them familiar, and it's the scare part, right? So they're very scared about how to use it. So we did a 2-day workshop with our administrators about what it is, how they can use it, its effect, not to be scared. If the kids use it, it's not cheating. And then in September, we did a 2-day training with our staff members. Here's how you can use it. Again, it's not scary if kids are using it. They're not cheating if they do. And here are some platforms that we prescribe to that you can use. So they're using it for lesson plans. They're also using it for their emails because they need to sometimes. They're also using it to do proposals because they have to do proposal for field trips. We work with the Education Foundation who they give us grants. So they use it to do their grant proposals because they have to do that as well. So they're using it a lot of different ways. Units, a Black History unit, one teacher used it for. I went in today, one teacher had used it to develop a whole slide presentation on producers, composers, and decomposers, the producers, consumers, and decomposers. And I thought that was pretty cool because it was full in color and everything. So she said, yeah, AI did this. I said, okay, as long as you checked it, it's good, you know? But so they're using it a lot of different ways and we're embracing it all. And so now next year, we'll roll it out to students. We created a policy about AI for our teachers and for our students, and we'll roll it out to students next year.
I really love that because I feel it's inevitable. Like it's gonna be so, and I think a lot of different industries, like they, to your point, are afraid of it and don't know how to use it properly. So
Right.
I'm thrilled to hear that you are embracing it and incorporating it moving forward. Because again, like I think it's like the saying, like you're either on the moving train or you're off it. So
Absolutely.
if you might as well jump on. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anybody have any questions? And while you're thinking of some of those questions, I do just want to remind everybody the session is being recorded. So Asia threw out a lot of information there, some great nuggets to go back and definitely check out. So just a reminder to check out that recording again. Danielle had a question. Do you have any other WGU grads within your district?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. So yes, I have about 6 teachers who are in WGU now. And 2 came to me when I started and said, "Oh, I just graduated from WGU. I'm so glad you're on the alumni advisory committee." I was like, "Yes." So they absolutely love WGU here, and I was excited because Danielle, thank you, Danielle, sent me the link for the scholarship. So I sent it out to staff members. So they couldn't thank me enough. So they love WGU. They're spreading it through the district, and they love that I'm here and a part of WGU on the alumni advisory side.
And obviously we love that. So
Yes.
anybody else have questions that they were interested? Um, I guess one thing that I have, if somebody is thinking about making that transition, Kristen had asked it a little bit previously. What what is a recommendation for you? Like, um, is it seeking out that leadership program? Is it something specific? Maybe is it reaching out to somebody to kind of pick their brain? That's something that we usually recommend to people. Like, hey, find an alum that's in that role that you want, and try to set up, have a cup of coffee with them if they're close by, or set up a Zoom call. Is that something that you might recommend?
To start, yes, because I think my favorite saying these days is that wasn't in the book I read. Or that wasn't in my job description, because it's always something new. Like even things that are going on in the state of the country today, it's just like, okay, now what do I have to do with this? So it's always something new. So I think having that initial conversation about the things that are included that you don't see, to make sure that's something that you want to get into. And that goes the same with even looking into districts. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, they offered me this leadership position, but you really have to vet that district because, like I said, my very first superintendent role, I couldn't say the word diverse. Now, I was coming from a place where I created a whole curriculum that was focused on DEI, and I get into a district where I'm the leader and I can't say the word diverse. I didn't do my homework very well. I was just very excited to be a superintendent. So that kind of goes without saying. talk to someone, pick their brain about the underlying responsibilities, the things that we don't see, and making that leap to superintendent, same as well. Like I said, I'm a baby soup, and I will take that title because there are things that I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out because I didn't have, when I got to be a superintendent, I didn't have a good mentor that can really help me with the nuances. So I would say definitely talk to people before you make the leap.
And how might you vet that process? Like, how do you vet that? Maybe going through the interview process, is there something specific that is it just asking a lot of questions going through? Is it reaching out to maybe individuals that are within the school district to pick their brain a little bit? How do you vet that process?
I would start there, but the one thing that I said I would, if I had to do it again, I would do is one, I would look to leaders who I aspire to be. It's one thing to ask someone a question just because they're a leader, but if you see that they don't have the same ideals or they don't have what you envision to be a true leader, then I wouldn't even bother because I call some people I call Mr. Checkbox because they're very compliant, but they're not progressive. They're not in tune to what is really needed. So I would really be selective of who I'm asking an opinion from. One of my colleagues, his favorite thing to say is, "Yeah, I just sit in my office all day and I'm bored." Well, why are you bragging about that? Like you rarely find me in my office because I'm out seeing what's going on. You have to keep your pulse. You have to keep your hand on the pulse in the building, and you can't do that sitting behind your desk. So think about those leaders who are doing what you say, oh my God, that person is phenomenal. And reach out. You'll be very surprised. Even someone who you don't know. I mean, I get emails on occasion from someone who is, they're in another district. They're not even in leadership. They're physical therapists and they're looking to be in administration, just asking, well, what do you think? What do you think I should do? So we're always willing to help the next generation. We're going to leave these seats sometime, and I would love to leave the seat for somebody who deserves to be in the seat. So always ask.
I love that. Next question that came in, what was the biggest skill gap you had as you transitioned into administration, and how did you develop that skill, or what recommendation would you have for others?
So the biggest skill gap I had, um, I would say, if I'm thinking about the superintendency, the biggest skill gap I had was the board superintendent relationship. Um, that was my biggest skill gap. That is a skill in itself. You have 9 bosses who most of the time are not in education, but they know more than you, right? So navigating the different mind frames and the different opinions is a skill in itself. So that was my biggest skill gap that I really had to work on. Now I have a board that is, oh my God, absolutely amazing. And they make my job easy. I'm still like, oh my, this has to be a dream. But I still can't forget that it's work to develop that relationship. I'm a pretty good people person. So that wasn't anything I really need to work on. However, I do have to understand that, all people are different. And although like I can get a little sarcastic sometimes, but everybody doesn't, they don't appreciate that. So I have to remember that. And you have to like navigate different personalities.
Mark had a question in the chat. Um, my studies have gone to software development and data analytics, but my goals have always been to support roles like district superintendents. How can a student in tech like me contribute to supporting my superintendent's office?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I would say even with the biggest contribution that you can make is helping your super navigate the nuances of AI because it's just so big. As a tech person, you hold the tools, you hold the knowledge to make sure that implementation is done correctly and it benefits the kids. There's nothing worse than a superintendent say, okay, go. And no one knows where they're going because they don't have direction. As a tech person, you hold the tools to be able to bring in AI the way it's supposed to be brought in, and then also move that district forward as far as technology is concerned. And that's what any superintendent would expect. And I hope I answered your question. Does that make sense?
It certainly made sense for me.
Okay.
Mark, does, did that answer the question? I'll give him a second to respond. Uh, Makes sense to me. I'm seeing how my superintendent's office about that right now. Perfect.
Perfect.
Um, any other questions that people might have? And I guess one thing I can ask you, Asia, any closing remarks or anything that maybe we didn't ask along the way that you feel like was important, that you wanted to share during the session today?
I think the one thing that I want to impress upon you is that um, leadership, uh, it has its advantages, right? But it is a hard job. You have to be in it for the right reasons. And once, if it's something that you're looking to do, again, I go back to look to some leaders that you aspire to be. Ask those questions, ask those tough questions. There's never a dumb question when it comes to your future, especially if you're considering it. And then the next step would be to look to an educational leadership program. They're always there. If you can't find one, ask your leaders to put you in one, to recommend one, because they're always there. And there's always money to be able to put you in that program. You have to make sure it's something that you want to do, and that's something that you'll, once you're an administrator, you're in administration, whether you choose to stay as a principal or move forward to be a superintendent, you're there for a long time. I will say that there are not a lot of female superintendents. It's absolutely, it's 1.7% of the superintendents nationally are Black women. So even minority superintendents, women superintendents, we make up the minority. So we need more women and more women of color and more superintendents of color, because a lot of our students are minorities and they identify with that demographic. So come aboard. We want you to come in.
I love it. Any other questions? Danielle had, what's your favorite book? I don't know if you wanted to share that.
Oh, so well, I'll leave Stephen King alone. My favorite professional book, actually, I'm reading it right now. It's called Let Them by Mel Robbins. And we can get caught up. The premise is to, if people are going to say things, they're going to criticize you, let them. Like, you can't control what you can't control. And that's something that I really had to embrace, because sometimes you take things personally because you put your all. Listen, guys, you heard me say I get 4 hours of sleep. You put your all into your job, and sometimes it's just not appreciated. You have to understand that people are going to have their opinions, they're going to think a certain way, and you have to just let them. You can't control that. So that's what I'm reading now. It probably will become my mantra, like, just let them do what say whatever, do whatever, because that keeps you sane for sure.
Awesome. And I'll give people a second. And I just want to say thank you, Asia, for jumping in, sharing your story, sharing your insights, your outlook on schools moving forward, and I think it's something that, whether it's people attending here live or individuals 6 months from now going back and watching this recording, it's going to make an impact on somebody. So I really we want to thank you for being open to jumping in and sharing your story, because it will end up helping somebody as they kind of move forward in their career. So we certainly are very appreciative of you being willing to jump on today.
Of course, my pleasure. I'm willing to help anyone at any time.
If somebody was looking to maybe connect with you, is there a good way to, your preferred way that they might reach out? Is it LinkedIn, email?
LinkedIn is absolutely good. I actually monitor it now, so please feel free. Um, my email address is easy. It's michaelasia@hotmail.com. I try to check it a couple times a week. So if you have any questions or at any point, please reach out. And like I said, I love to help, and especially aspiring administrators. So please reach out.
Awesome. Well, Asia, thank you so much again. We certainly appreciate you jumping in, and thank you everybody for their time jumping in, learning a little bit about being a superintendent from Asia, and we certainly hope that you pursue that career path moving forward. But thank you again, Asia. It certainly was a pleasure. And reminder, everybody, this was recorded. You'll get that recording tomorrow morning. But I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of their Thursday.
Thank you. And thank you all. Thank you for listening. Have a good night.
Take care.